Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Spotlight on Story. This is the annual number 3 of the original volume of Fantastic Four. That's right. This came right after Fantastic Four issue number 43. So that's how far back this is going. This actually came out in 1965. So we're going back pretty far, but I'm doing this because I feel it's important to get across Marvel events chronologically. And while this wouldn't qualify as a modern day event, this is certainly considered the first event that happened in the Marvel Universe. There was no necessary big bang that started the things and, all these different characters start popping up all over the place. No. When you talk about events, the first event has to go to the wedding of Reed Richards and Sue Storm of the Fantastic Four. This was a really awesome issue. And mind you, back in the day, up until fairly recently, comics were very serious about continuity, right? You'll see on the cover here that Namor and the Hulk are in this comic book, as an example. Namor is on the cover of this book because he's in one of the other stories. There are 3 stories in here. Only one of them is original, right? The other 2 are backups, issue number 6 and issue number 11 of the Fantastic Four. But the first story is, bang, the wedding of Sue and Reed. Also, guys, I'm a little sick. Sorry. Pros and cons. Con, I'm sick. I'm going to sound stuffy. Pro, I get to do this video because I made a little bit of time for myself by being sick. So, hey. Anyway, aside from the nasally stuff, let's get into this. So the Hulk doesn't actually appear in this, even though he's on the cover. A little bit annoying, but he is at least off to the side. And they show that Namor isn't necessarily in here. Anyway, the Hulk in both of these characters, Namor and the Hulk, were in the Tales to Astonish comic book. And Namor was off finding Neptune's trident someplace, and Hulk was like literally on the other side of the universe handling business someplace. So they chose not to just, it's like, oh, well, if they're in an issue doing this over here, then we can't have them coming over here and do this. The last person who would ever enforce that in the Marvel Universe, in any comic book for the most part, was Jim Shooter. So around 1990 or so, all that was gone. And slowly but surely, people started to wean out of the ways of continuity. And shortly thereafter, the comic book company went bankrupt. So, I mean, there's that. So, continuity. We love it. We live it. We love it. And it's annoying when they don't have it anymore. In fact, they were so serious about it, they used to give no prizes if you mess up continuity. So, just to give you an idea of how important it was in here. Now, you got to remember comic books, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who made this comic book, and most of the comic books out there, along with Steve Ditko, they were serious about making this stuff fun and making it for adults also, not just kids, but they still did involve a kid element. They didn't show a bunch of naked women in the comic books. They didn't show, they didn't show ridiculously graphic things. A lot of things were stun blasts and things like that. There wasn't a whole lot of actually hurting people for real, right? In fact, just 3 issues ago, in Fantastic Four issue number 40, Dr. Doom, this was very strange, Dr. Doom was shown having his hands crushed inside of his armor by the Thing. It was a very sad and emotional comic book, issue number 40, where everybody lost their powers, but Reed reinstated everybody's powers so they could fight the menace that was Dr. Doom. And Ben was like, I don't really think I want to go back to it. He's like, I'm sorry, buddy, but when the world needs the strength of the Thing right now. And boom, and then he looks up and like one blue eye open. He's just looking like, God damn you, Reed. But he knew he was right. And it was like really sad. I'm telling you, any of you younger guys just probably for the most part don't understand the majesty, the sad majesty that was the Thing, Ben Grimm. I mean, just the most compelling character, just as or more compelling than Spider-Man way before there was a Wolverine who people were like, yeah, people were like, Ben Grimm, a boy. Everybody knew it. The very reluctant hero. There was so much behind this character. And then people just forgot about the Thing. And I'm talking about the writers. And they just forgot about how incredible the Thing was. But he got turned and he went after, and he just solo went after Doctor Doom, who just, mind you, destroyed the entire Fantastic Four as a whole. And he solo went after Doctor Doom. And Doom's like, I'm throwing all these things at you and you just won't stop coming after me. What's going on? And he just comes up and just crushes his hands and then tears apart like the circuitry of the chest plate of his armor and just leaves him. And Doom is a badass. He didn't complain. He didn't moan. You didn't see a single speech bubble, word balloon where he's talking about, ow, or anything like that. He just takes it and he just like wanders off, and it is what it is. But that's important in this. And then issue number 43 later on, where after the Fantastic Four have defeated the Wingless Wizard and the not the Fantastic Four, the Frightful Four. At the end, you see Doctor Doom. He's like, my hands are almost healed, and once they are, I'll be able to mess with my, not the encephalo beam, that was something entirely different, the motion controller. And the name changed a couple of times. It is what it is. But basically, it was an emotion controller plus, right? And that's where we leave off, and we come into the Fantastic Four Annual, issue number 3. This comic book, bro. Wow, this comic book. So we start off with Bedlam at the Baxter Building. Dr. Doom is reading the daily press because he's a well-read person. Why wouldn't he read a newspaper, damn it? Written by Stan Lee, drawn by Jack Kirby, inked by Vince Colletta, and lettered by Artie Simek. Catered by the Bullpen Gang. You gotta have some catering. That's what we see in the movies all the time, right? They'll mention who the caterer was. Anyway. So, we move on. Dr. Doom crunches up the newspaper as he's sitting on his throne. And, he's badass, man. He's talking about, the damn Fantastic Four that messed up my hands and hurt me. I will have my revenge. Doom is an amazing villain. Go check out 10 Things About Dr. Doom Explained in a Minute. And then go free to check out anybody else's commentary on Doom. I do the Explained in a Minute things. That's what I like to do. But Doom deserves at least 20 minutes of being talked about all the amazing things that he's capable of done and the brilliance of his history. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, this is the ultimate character. Like, I love Captain America. He's my favorite hero. My favorite character would have to be Dr. Doom. Right? There's just so... When you talk about the complex villain, who isn't really a villain, he's egotistical and narcissistic. He wants everybody to know how important he is. But Doom is the best thing for the world. And it sounds very fascist, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, isn't that kind of what we'll be okay with? Who cares who's in charge of the world? Now, then, whatever. As long as I'm free to do the things that I want to do. We can have that under Doom. And healthcare. At the end of the day, the people of Latveria, they were better off with Doom. Everybody, like, the highest education rate amongst people, the lowest unemployment rate, lowest suicide rate. You know what I'm saying? The best of everything. The people were happy with Doom. And it's not like that in any other country in the world. It's hard to say Doom is the bad guy just because he fights against our heroes. Maybe Doom's just smarter than everybody. Hell, if we just acknowledge that, he probably wouldn't be so pissed off all the time. So Doom's pissed off in this. So Doom says, I'm going to get revenge on these guys. I'm going to ruin their wedding day. This was very childish-ish. It's fine. I get it. Doom wasn't fully established as this incredible character just yet. But damn, he looked good. Damn it, they designed Darth Vader after him, for crying out loud. So the wedding is happening in the Baxter building. The people are all coming to hang out and, hey, how you doing? And Stark is the first person to show up. He's got a top hat. He's looking all dapper and whatnot, right? All of a sudden, Hetty and Patsy show up. And they name drop Millie the model. If you're not old, and I wasn't old enough to have witnessed this stuff when it was happening, but Millie the model, like, we're talking old school comic books at this point, bro. Millie the model. She was awesome, right? And Patsy Walker. Eventually she became Hellcat. I believe it was in a Patsy Walker comic book where the first comic book appearance of Stan Lee was in. I have that comic book someplace over here in one of these big piles. But what I'm saying is, she was kind of in her own thing. Once the Marvel Universe, but like not the Timely comic books, not the Atlas comic books, not like that. Once the Marvel Universe was established with Fantastic Four issue number 1, and they said, "Oh yeah, the Namor, the Submariner, and the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond, all that stuff is in this universe too. But slowly we're adding it in. Right now it's just this Fantastic Four. Start bringing more and more of it in, right? This is the first time that we've seen, the first issue where we see that Patsy Walker and Millie the Model, all these characters, Hetty. Patsy and Hetty, I think that was the name of the comic book, was Stan's first appearance. Anyway, we see that they are actually a part of this world. It's canon now. It's official, right? Because Thor appeared in the Venus comic books and Loki way back in the day, but those are not canon. Even though it happened under the Marvel banner or something to that effect, right? Timely banner. Doesn't count. So here, they're actually involved in this. And then later on, of course, Patsy Walker would go in to confront Beast and be like, "You're not my boyfriend anymore. What's going on?" And then she would take on the mantle of Hellcat, and all Hellcat would break loose. Anyway, the way that this is working is Dr. Doom, he uses this emotion controller, and again, the name changes multiple times, and it's supposed to make people's brainwaves so messed up that they want to come in and hurt the Fantastic Four. The Puppet Master, Ben Grimm's wife, eventually his wife, but Ben Grimm's girlfriend, Alicia Masters, this is her father? Uncle? Forget. Something like that. This Joker. He vowed he's not going to be fighting the Fantastic Four anymore, but now he's mind controlled, so all bets are off, right? Shows up, uses his magical radiation clay, gets some dude to come walking forward in a top hat. I thought it was going to be Tony Stark at first. It's not. Just some Joker. He comes walking up to go and give a poison handshake grip. Like, what was that movie that was made where they go after Kim Jong, right? They go after him. Goes up to give his poison handshake to the Thing. And it would have been enough to kill him, but all of a sudden the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show up. Like, yeah, Nick Fury shows up. Game Jones is over here, and he gives like karate chop, yeah, like that in the back of the guy. He does that William Shatner thing. And they're like, "Oh, the brainwaves. There's going to be chaos because there's some kind of brainwaves thing going on. We have to stop these bad guys, so we're going to try and protect you guys, all right? Fantastic Four, just keep an eye out." It's like, oh no, people are going to come and try and clobber us. But you look at Game Jones in here. I'm sorry, I'm just noticing this. He's gray. He's gray. Like in issue number 1 of the Hulk. Hulk was gray. Game Jones is supposed to be a black man. So it makes me wonder two things. Is this the reason why we didn't see more black people in comic books back in the day? Because they couldn't draw gray? They couldn't have gray as a major color in the, or they couldn't have, brown in there in the 4-dot matrix? Yeah, I think that was a lot of the reason. How many browns do you see in the freaking comic books anyway, back in the day? Anyway, they did what they could. They did what they could while they could. But it also makes me wonder, was the Gray Hulk actually supposed to be a black man? I'm saying. I'm just putting that out there. Anyway, and remember, the reason why he wasn't remained gray by issue 2, why they turned him green. It's easier to do green in the comic book instead of gray. So there's that. Maybe Gabe Jones should have been green. Could have been a little green man. Let's move on. So, Puppet Master is actually really pissed off at this point. He's like, I can't believe this. I'm being forced to do this stuff, and I think things are only going to get worse. Let me get the heck out of here. And he goes running right past the Super Apes. So, if you're not familiar with Red Ghost and the Super Apes, I just put up a video of Red Ghost. 10 things about Red Ghost. Explained in a minute. It's about a minute and a half. Shut up. Anyway, so bang. He was running by, and these guys are like, we're going to get revenge on the Fantastic Four. Why? Because you started wreck and then you got beat? So now you're going to get revenge? Like, listen, man, you don't want none. Won't be none. But if there's going to be some, it's because you wanted some. So they're going after him. Reed goes back and tries to explain, guys, we're going to be attacked. And some bald guy there, I think his name is Professor X. X-Men, was it 1963? And he's like, my mutant brain. What kind of crap is that? Especially when in God Loves, Man Kills, the 7th Marvel graphic novel, the thing with the X-Men, Kitty Pryde goes and says, somebody's like, hey, Mutie. It's like, hey, if you call us Mutie, then it's almost like you might as well say the N-word. And she actually says the word. We don't say that word. I know this is old, but come on, Chris Claremont. What's the matter with you, fool? So they try to equate that. Chris tried to equate that. Okay, it is what it is. Anyway, so I wonder if by him saying my mutant brain, is that kind of racist? Like self-hating race? Gets his mutant powers, and the Jumbo's like, I better start looking at, something's happening right now. Drill comes up. It's the Mole Man with his moloids. You gotta love these comic books back in the day. But Mole Man's a beast, and he knows this because he goes right after Beast. He goes up and he's like, hold on, with his bow staff, and Beast does this thing where he jumps backwards to avoid this explosion thing that's gonna knock him out. It's a stun set, mind you. Everything in here is about stunning. The comic books were very, like I said, they weren't made for kids, but they were made with kids in mind. They were made for adults, but with kids in mind, right? Again, Dr. Doom got his hands crushed because he was just particularly bad. Everybody's like, why don't they just kill the guy? You know what I'm saying? Like the whole, why doesn't Batman just kill the Joker and everybody else? So that was like one of the most violent things that had been done in the comic books back in the day, all right? We're not talking about eerie. Screw that nonsense. You ain't going to see freaking Spider-Man walking around with an axe and a decapitated head talking about, I'm sending you all to Uncle Ben. Like, it's not happening, all right? But in this one, everybody's doing stunning attacks. Okay. So I like the idea they had Beast versus Mole Man. Anyway, freaking Jean Grey comes up and she's all like, Wingardium Leviosa with her levitating telekinetic powers, and Cyclops is just like, hey, all you guys, get in a row for me, all right? Boom! And just, my man. He's going to come by a little bit later. Cyclops is coming by a little bit later. He's going to pull some hijinks on some people. They start stuffing them back down the hole. Cyclops and Angel are like stuffing these guys back down into this hole that they came out of. And, oh man, Iceman comes up and he's just like, boom, puts a freezing thing on there. And that freezing ray stuff is so he actually freezes some moloids in there. So you try and bring that drill up again, you're going to kill a bunch of moloids. They're going to revolt. The ice is so thick, it's thicker than the original dirt they were going through. And just like, nobody's coming back up, all right? And realistically, to me, it's almost like this emotion control device was just enough that it would send the suggestion. Like there's mind control and there's implanting a suggestion, right? A mind control is something that like the Shadow King will do to you. Well, he'll actually full on possess you, right? But a suggestion is the kind of stuff that Loki will do. He'll plant a little seed in your brain, walk off and laugh at the crap, right? Dr. Doom's not trying to laugh at these fools. But he's not trying to control their minds and now, Puppet Master, you go over and do this. And now, what do you call it? Mandarin, you go over and do that. It's putting out a quick little boop, and everybody's like, I feel the need to attack the Fantastic Four. We go. I just did it, and I got thwarted. Okay, well, I don't really feel the need anymore. Let me just get out of here and go back and do. I don't usually just do these things, right? So, yeah, it's a suggestion, right? And I love the idea of that. And realistically, this is an event because like all these things happen, all these hijinks are happening in this comic book, man. The apes are going after the Fantastic Four directly. What do you call it? They're able to handle business for the most part, but things all of a sudden start to get a little bit icky because it's just too much. They're not effective enough against these guys. So what happens? Like that, Doctor Strange shows up and he's just like, y'all know I can handle all the bitness, right? Right? When I say bitness, it's not just me being cool. It's not just business. It's bitness. I can't breathe. I'm breathing through my mouth right now, right? So he just sends them through time and space, and they're just like, oh no, don't worry about it. They're smart. All four of them are smart. They'll find a way out of it. So Doctor Strange's like, hey, how you guys doing? You guys evaded me. Now we're even, right? So I love it. Ben Grimm's talking some trash in here. He's just like, man, why didn't you two just elope? Reed, Sue, why didn't you just elope? I was like, this ain't cool. I love it. You gotta love Ben. You gotta love that. Doom is looking over his stuff and he's like, yeah, my emotion machine, da 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 da. Mandarin wasn't fully established as this awesome character who's in control of everything yet at the time, right? But eventually he would be. At first, he's just, I found this stuff and I'm going to go and start bzz, bzz, bzz. I mean, even Dr. Doom was just this guy who just, like, suddenly appear in New York City wearing his full armor and just like, yeah, I'm just hanging out in my apartment and I came out and decided to attack the Fantastic Four. It wasn't established until later he was a ruler of Latveria, right? So they're establishing these characters. Iron Man still had some work to do. Mandarin's there. The original Black Knight is there. Freaking Kang shows up. This thing went through time and space, right? Went through time and space, pulled him out of time, and was just like, I feel the need to attack the Fantastic Four. He didn't do anything special at the end. He was just like, Urgh. Awesome Android is there. Grey Gargoyle is there. Thor shows up. Now, there was a spaceship at the beginning of this, and the ship shows up again. It turns out it's the Super Skrull. Thor is flying by. He's like, what's that ship doing here? I like how they do things like this. Dude was like, this stuff must happen, and this spaceship just suddenly appears, right? I love it. I love the idea that they care about the continuity, right? They're not perfect, but they tried at least. Thor's just like, fool, you ain't hurting me. He hammer throws this thing. Freaking Super Skrull starts going after him. This could be a good fight. I'd like to see some more of it. Daredevil shows up. He first shows up as Matt Murdock. He's got Foggy and Karen in the back. And he's just like, I'll handle this. And he turns into Daredevil, goes downstairs to see what's going on. Hydra, like this is like some Beverly Hillbilly stuff. Hydra shows up with his big pickup truck. I swear to God, it's the big Sanford and Son pickup truck. They're driving down the street talking about ba-ba-ba-da, ba-ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Like they're there and they got this big bomb in the back. It might as well say bomb on the side of it. Say or scud or something. Freaking hysterical. Straight out of Saddam's playbook. Shows up with a freaking bomb. Daredevil's like, this looks like a job for me. He jumps down there. One fool goes like, I'll get you. Bing! Everybody's like, oh shoot! He pulled out a blicky. Everybody's jumping from the truck. The bomb is gonna blow. This truck is shaking. It's a big bomb. These guys all just jump ship. They're like, we're done. We're done. Freaking, they're talking about Hydra will pay you double if we succeed in our mission. This looks like some suicide or bomber stuff. Like, is this stuff being direct deposited to my account so that my family can get this? I mean, what the frick? Daredevil jumps inside the truck. He's going to pilot this truck. It was established much later on, I think with Mark Waid. He decided to rewrite history and say that his Daredevil's radar sense can't go through glass. I get it. It's like a echo vibration thing. Like, I would say maybe it would like be disturbed or something, but whatever. It'd be like a brick wall to him. It's a surface. Sure. I mean, I guess. Sound can go through glass. If you don't believe me, you hear all those people outside. What you probably hear things going on outside my window, you know. But it is what it is. Okay, fine, I get it. Here though, it's able to go through glass. So he's driving this truck, and he's taking turns, and yeah, Captain America and the rest of the Avengers show up. Cap is awesome, bro. They loves them some Cap. Cap shows up and the freaking Viper jumps on him. All of a sudden, freaking Executioner and Amora, the Enchantress, show up. Cap throws Viper into Knucklehead, freaking Executioner, ducks out the way as this dude's trying to hit him. Like, I know the Executioner is powerful, but like, this is Captain America we're talking about. He's not just gonna like whoop his ass. Like, he throws him into him. It's not like he goes flying or anything like that, right? Executioner's just like, boom, that's annoying. And he just, right in the next panel, he's taking a swing at Cap. So that was cool. Freaking Mr. Hyde shows up also. He's going after Cap also because he's got his back turned, right? It's like they all trying to gang up on Cap. Fortunately, Hawkeye shows up. And he's got this little clamp arrow. He's like, boom, launches this thing. And it looks like Hyde must be running, like he's run up like this at first, but then his hands get caught like this. I'm thinking he was going, because they just did the William Shatner karate chop thing, right? I think he was going up for that big double axe hand, like interlace his fingers and go for the big double axe handle, boom, and finish blow, right? So he did like this, and then all of a sudden he gets, oh no, and he gets trapped up against a wall. I like this though, because Hyde, like nowadays he could lift 50 tons. At the time, Ben Grimm was only lifting 5 tons at the time. So Mr. Hyde would be able to lift like what? 1, maybe 2 tons, maybe 3 tons, whatever it is. He was slowly breaking out this thing, but it was slowly. Like, you see the cracks in the building and more and more and more as he's pulling his hands out of this thing. You see the building and the brick and all that stuff start to crack. I love the little details like that, right? But then you come to see the major problem with New York City. Sorry, tea break. There we are. My voice sounds a little bit better. So anyway, Amora takes advantage of one of the major problems at the time in New York City. See, people didn't trust banks. So they were installing safes everywhere. And in order to install these safes after the buildings were already made, they had to hang them up by ropes and pull them up, or a truck brought them, whatever. But there were just all these safes all over New York City hanging on by ropes. Because you saw them all in cartoons, anvils too. The cartoons are anvils. No anvils really in comic books, right? Unless it's like a Deadpool or something like that comic book. But anyway. She caused the rope on the safe to crack, to break, and then the safe starts falling on top of Hawkeye, and Spider-Man comes by and saves the day. Really nice picture of Spider-Man in this. I genuinely appreciate this picture. But everybody's fighting and whatnot. Black Knight shows up and he's trying to do his stun bolts. Everything is stun, trying to do his stun bolts on the truck to hit Daredevil. Angel shows up for the X-Men. It's like, fool, you can't beat me. Smack, smack, smack. That's when the Mandarin finally shows up, and he does a nerve ray, which is basically a stun beam, on Angel. He's out there like Dave Chappelle, What do you call it? Angel starts falling. Beast goes and catches him. Iceman shows up and starts throwing freaking ice bricks at people. All these other people start showing up. Geez, we got Electro, Mandarin, the Unicorn, the Melter, the Beetle, all these Iron Man villains plus Electro. They all show up and they're just like, boom, trying to blast on Iceman, this poor fool. And Iceman can't handle all these guys, all 5 of these guys. But Cyclops can. I told you Cyclops was coming back. He goes back, he's like, they're all like, it's almost too easy. Who could ever stand up to us? And Cyclops like, I can. And he's just like, I. It should have been EYE instead of the letter I. Like, I can. Boom! And he just like blasts them. These suckers didn't stand a chance. A full powered, concentrated beam. This ain't like Iron Man, where he's going to show up and try to like rocket punch and some repulsors to, take you down, but not take you out. Cyclops just like, I will go full blast on you. You don't know me. I don't even like you humans anyway. We're superior. Krakoa forever, right? So it just turns into a big slobber knocker. Freaking awesome android Man Thinker going after Iron Man. Really great images of the of all of these characters showing up. Really beautiful. When the Avengers showed up, Quicksilver is also there, but they just showed a blur. I think this is the only time that Quicksilver ever met with the original Human Top. He's called the Human Top here. Later on, he's called, can't remember what he's called, but he gets the buzzsaws on the back of his hand. Whirlwind, right? To me, it's actually an awesome character. And he's also a mutant, right? His ability is to spin really fast. Now, he can run fast also, but his big thing is that he can spin. That's his big thing, and he doesn't get dizzy or anything like that. But he's nowhere near as fast as Quicksilver. Quicksilver shows it and just, boop, like, the Human Top doesn't even get a word in edgewise. Human Top, mind you, is an Ant-Man, more specifically a Giant Man villain. So, there's that. And also, could this be an event if Atlantis didn't attack? Probably not. So Atuma shows up. I told you Namor wasn't in this comic book. Well, he's not in this story. He's in the comic book later on where they're revisiting issue number 6 of the Fantastic Four where Namor and Doom team up against the FF. That's different, though. Issue number 11, which is also reprinted in this, by the way, is with Impossible Man. Is that first issue with Impossible Man from Papak. Forget about Morgan and Mindy Man. So anyway, Atuma shows up and Atlantis attacks. These some ugly looking Atlanteans. This is some Jack Kirby extra work. It's to inspire the new gods at some point, right? His work there. Anyway, the truck goes flying. The truck that Daredevil was driving shows up just in time at the docks because Daredevil's like, I'm going to drop this thing in the water. Perfect timing. I love this. The bomb goes flying into the water just as the tube is getting ready to, reach shore. Thing blows up. Boom. Mostly happens under the water. Atlantis attacks. No more. the Atlantis onslaught got repulsed. So I think this was the first time Atlantis truly attacked, right? I think. If that's the case, the only person the most successful person at repelling Atlantis is Daredevil. I just want to put that out for the record. But it's getting too much. The guys can't handle all this stuff, so who should show up with the Watcher? Watcher shows up, and he's just all like, hey, man, I'm not supposed to interfere, but I'm going to interfere because that's what I do. Shows up and brings Reed. Reed shows up in the blue area of the moon. And he's just like, oh crap, there's all this stuff here. What does this stuff do? Watcher's like, can't tell you. Not really supposed to interfere. All I'm doing is transporting you from one place to another. That's it. It seems kind of sus to me, but whatever. It's too late now. It's like I just happen to be in the neighborhood. I'm going back home. I brought you with me. I'm not going back. I'll let you go back. It's cool. Reed shows up and he starts looking around now. What's cool is that Reed is so ridiculously intelligent that he's actually able to understand alien technology, right? He doesn't fully comprehend the ins and outs, but he can look at a design and he can come to some understanding of what this machine will do. And that's what he does. Comes across this one machine. It's like, this is it. The only thing to defeat our enemies. It must be Uatu's like, its power is unimaginable, Reed Richards. If used wrongly, it will destroy you. I can say no more. Return to your own world now. So here you go. Bang. um, I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, it's a Deus Ex Machina. I get it. But how many times that happened? The first time that Uatu appeared in the comic books was to help against Galactus, right? And that's where the Universal Nullifier comes from. It was left to other people to decide what the Universal Nullifier would do, right? The Ultimate Nullifier, whatever the hell it is. Anyway, Reed shows up and he's got to set up this machine. Puts the machine together and all of a sudden, boop, and everybody's just like, I don't know why I'm here. They get sent back in time before they got hit by this beam, or right when they got hit by this beam. So it's almost like they all got reset. So when the beam hit them, like their reset minds were sent back in that time. So it's like, hey, I'm pissed at the fat table. What the heck was I saying? It's like that. So now they're able to get on with their business. Even Dr. Doom doesn't remember that he did all this stuff. Now, do the heroes remember this stuff? Nah, I don't freaking know. But they're all here. If they don't know, they're probably just like, why are we in costume? Iron Man was like, Tony Stark's like, I showed up with a top hat and a nice suit. What the hell? Why am I in my Iron Man armor? X-Men are all sweaty and whatnot. So I think that they remember. Anyway. So, and this is it. Reed and Sue get married. Gabe Jones shows up. Is like, there's some jokers out here trying to get in. They're not on the guest list though. It's like, don't. Nick Fury's like, don't let them in. So, turns out that these two are Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And like, we have ways of getting revenge. And it's funny, they do. There are many times where they do actually get revenge on them by drawing them certain ways. Remember, Jack Kirby is the one above all. So let's just, that's been established. So, I mean, there's that. Anyway, this is cool. They walk off and they're just like, oh, how dare they? Let's go off and write the next issue, right? This was fun. Is it the most believable comic book? I mean, considering that it was written for adults but with kids in mind, to still be kid-friendly. Everything was a stun blast instead of people actually trying to kill each other and whatnot, right? Yeah. I mean, all things considered, yeah. Yeah, I think that this was fun. I enjoyed this comic book. If this came out today exactly like this, I mean, for one thing, the art would have to be a whole lot better because they're working with better materials, right? I can only imagine what kind of an artist, what kind of comic books Jack Kirby would be able to produce if he were alive today, right? Gene Colan, Steve Ditko, all of them. What kind of things would we be able to see the comic books coming out today if those guys were still alive, still doing their thing, right? So I mean, just it is what it is. But the writing also would have had to evolve. Like this wouldn't have. This is the Silver Age. It's hijinks. It's weird stuff. It's safes being fall. Like if I saw a comic book where somebody just says boop, oh, there happens to be a safe being put into that building up there, dangling on a rope with nobody around it doing things. Boop, let's make it fall on top of somebody. This is perfectly, aimed over top of this person's head. I'd be like, what the fuck is this, right? But for this being back in the day when they were first trying to establish a superhero world and all this, crazy lunacy and again, just hijinks. Yeah, this was, for the most part, perfect. Honestly, to me, the most unrealistic thing that happened in this comic book was they were like, the Thing, Ben Grimm, has a rented tux. I'm sorry. That just doesn't make sense to me. This guy is huge and made out of rock. He has a body type unlike anybody else's body type. And they just happen to have a tux for him to rent? As opposed to buying it, having it custom tailored and made from scratch for him and whatnot. Like having to pull in extra materials from freaking Swaziland or whatever. Like, come on now. Come on now. No, that's the most unrealistic thing in this comic book. The safe is number 2. But it is what it is. Guys, this was a genuinely fun comic book. They got away with reprinting some old issues. There weren't comic book stores at the time. For the most part, there were no comic book stores at the time. All this stuff was newsstand. All of these things had the UPC on them. At some point later on, they'd start taking old issues of these comic books and they'd have them in the back of a drugstore or a Five and Dime, or mostly a Five and Dime, right? The Woolworths, right? That was before dollar stores came out. They'd have all these things, sure. And then later on, around the very late 70s and for the most part the 80s, is when they started actually making stores devoted to comic books, you know? Baseball cards and gum also, but it is what it is. Comic book stores. They didn't really call them baseball card stores. They were comic book stores. They knew where their money was, damn it. So, and then they started actually making, like Jim Shooter actually was like, hey, let's make Dinosaur #1 the original comic book store comic book. Bang, let's go. So, 'tis what it is. For what this was, I thought this was great. I know there's going to be complaints about it because it's just so silly, but, and I'm talking about the other two issues that are in here that were previous issues, 72 big pages. Well, the pages look as big as they've ever looked. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, there's 72 pages of this comic book. But 1/3 of this, verily, to quote Thor back in the day, verily 2/3 of the comic book were just reprints, 6 and 11. Duh. But they get away with it back then because, again, there weren't comic book stores. So where were you going to get these old issues? You know? What's the origin of Impossible Man? I don't know. Well, let me reprint this issue and you'll get it. That's where the Marvel Tales and many other comic books were just comic books where they would literally reprint all these other comic books. Marvel Spotlight, for crying out loud. That's where I got the name for Spotlight on Story, was the old Marvel Spotlight. All of these stories, they had to be reprinted because there was no way of getting these. I think the last time that reprints were a major thing was actually with the X-Men Classics, Classic X-Men, because they reprinted those original X-Men issues starting with Giant Size X-Men #1 and then going on from issue number 94 on with the new X-Men when Wolverine and Storm showed up to replace all the other X-Men, the original X-Men, right? And even then, they had to have extra stories in there, or an extra something in there. They would have an extra 2 to 4 pages, you know, sometimes more, whatever, just on average, an extra 2 to 4 pages of some extended story. Wolverine going off to plant a bomb on somebody. Sabretooth showing up with a happy birthday bub, and where he'd show up on Wolverine's birthday every year and tear his throat out. He'd hunt him down and tear his throat out. Surprise, fool! And just leave him there. All these extra Storm getting hit on by this guy who'd walk home, and she'd walk home, and then all of a sudden he'd show up, and there's Peter Rasputin Colossus trying to pull a freaking tree stump out with a chain, and Wolverine over here talking about, hey, I'm Wolverine. And he shows up and is like, I'm going to kill one of these guys. Which one should I kill? And like this whole, they'd add a bunch of stories in there just to make it, so, because you couldn't just reprint stories at this point, because comic book stores were well established. These old issues existed. You could find these comics back then. Now there's zero reason to reprint comic books because of the digital online space, right? In Marvel, there's the Marvel Insider, and I think Comixology is still technically a thing. The only reason to ever reprint a comic book is if it's something special. It's the True Believers stuff, or the facsimile covers, or facsimile comic books, you know? There's no other reason than those minuscule and very specialized reasons to ever reprint a comic book at this point. So there's that. Sometimes in trade paperbacks, if it's only a 5-issue series, but they've got space and they want the price of a 6-issue rolled in, they'll do a reprint of some other issue or something that's remotely somehow moderately related to something. But that's comic books. That's comic books back in the day. That's a rough history of comic books and the things that used to exist back then. Guys, I'm going to do more of these spotlights on stories featuring some of these old Marvel events, and as we start moving forward, because there's some of them I'm madly in love with, and I feel like a lot of, younger people today have to know these stories, and the older people like me, they would love to relive them. So hopefully I'm doing a good job for that. Guys, feel free to share the video. I very rarely ask that, but it wouldn't hurt, right? If you're a member of a comic book group someplace, feel free to share this video. I would appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bell, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.